Hello, beautiful souls. Today I'm here to offer more channeling from the Council of Nine this time to answer your questions. And today is the remainder of the questions that I received from my email subscribers. One from Carol and the rest are from Jen. And then I will get to answering the questions that people left under my last YouTube channeling Q&A. And if you would like to submit a question, you can do it through the contact page on my website at roshana.ca, or just put a response in the messages under this video. I would ask that it be something that other people can relate to, something that's not so personal. It can have a personal nature to it, but just try to consider that other people will also benefit when they're hearing the question and receiving the answer. But I do welcome your questions because people have told me they like this format. So with that, then we can just continue. So today we have questions about destiny, extraterrestrials, protecting yourself, being able to channel, and more. So if that interests you, stay tuned. I'm going to call on the Council of Nine now and bring forward, starting with this question from Carol. So just calling in the council, they are here. So the question is, before we come into physical, is our physical experience already predestined before we get here, or do we have free will? And so it is, dear ones. It is our great joy and delight to be before each one of you, whoever listens to this video, at whatever time you are listening. Know that the energetic frequencies that are being transmitted in these answers are timeless and are here to support your own evolution and your own understanding of the nature of these questions. And just so you know, whenever I'm yawning, that is clearing. So something's also being cleared as this is happening. In the matter of whether your life is predetermined, predestined, or whether you have free will, we would say it is really a combination of both. So before you come into incarnation on the earth in the manner in which it has been up until this time, you have a soul plan, you have a life plan, you have a committee that helps you consider what would serve your greatest growth, your higher evolution in your lifetime. And then when you come, events are arranged and lined up to help you move in the direction of what you chose to experience. However, free will does come into play in that you can receive urging and prompting to go in a certain direction, but also override those urging and promptings. And so you have a different experience. We would say there are some basic soul lessons that you will be guided to over and over. So if you do not follow the gentle nudges of the heart, then other events may come that will lead you to receive the same growth, the same understanding, the same learning in your life that you would have received through those gentle nudgings. Perhaps something more dramatic will have to happen to get you to the same level of understanding. So as your soul is growing, which is the intent of being here, with every step that you take, then more and more comes. So once you receive one level of awareness, then it opens up and something more comes to you, and it opens up and something more comes to you. So we would say that you certainly, with your decisions that you make in every moment, and with your own personal level of growth and evolution, can experience different events in your life. So for example, there are many potentials in every moment, and depending on your own energetic frequency in that moment, is what you will attract as your experience in that moment. So for example, if you're very sad and depressed or feeling very negative, then what you will pull on will be experiences that will show you that resonance, that frequency of negativity that you're in. But if you're feeling very light and joyful, you know that when you're having a really good day, you wake up feeling good and good things happen to you in that day. It's because you wake up in that state of feeling good and you magnetize those events to you because of your initial state and your way of being. So this is a continual process, not only day to day, but truly moment by moment. You all know as well that you can be having a really good day and suddenly something shifts and it starts to go wrong, or vice versa. So it really is moment to moment how you are experiencing these events in your life, and it stems from the frequency which you're residing in. And so the choices that you make and the time that it takes you to grow into the things that you've come to grow into all impact how much your free will has a role to play in the things that you've come to learn and discover in your lifetime. So Carol, we hope that that is helpful for you in your own personal growth. Okay. And now these are from Jen. Are there different races of extraterrestrials? Are there negative ETs just like we have serial killers and rapists on Earth? Okay. Indeed, there are, in the many diversity of races that exist in the universe, there are many beings that you would call extraterrestrials that do not live on your planet. And although races hold, you could say, a cultural nature, within that group, there are, just like there are in humans, what you could call good and bad. Although, as many of you know, when you move into the higher frequencies, you don't really describe things as good as bad. Things are what they are. But there are, just like there are humans who are of service to humanity, there are also humans who are very wounded and disturbed and cause a lot of disruption for humanity. And it is the same way within the ET races. For example, many are familiar with the Greys. There are some that do not hold the highest intention for humanity, and there are some who have come here at this time to actually grow into being more loving, kind, and generous beings. And so there are, to answer your question very basically, different levels of frequency vibration. So love being the highest frequency, and ill intent and harm being the lowest, we could say. There are diverse levels of that within most races. However, there are, of course, races and beings that live off of your planet that hold a very high frequency and that live on planets where they've attained a high level of resonance, and they live very much in the frequency of love and live very harmonious existences. And so within those races and planetary systems, there is not the extreme of love and harm and evil, you could say, that other planetary systems experience. So it is very diverse. We hope this answers your question. Okay. Does one need to protect oneself from negative unseen energies? To that, we would like to say that the need for protection is very much connected to the thought form within the person. So we would say if you feel that you need protection from negative entities, to indeed offer yourself that protection and ask for that protection. Call upon your higher self, call upon your guides. Call upon beings of light who serve the highest and best for all to come and protect you, because if you feel you need that protection, then you need it. A time comes when you've moved into a frequency where you recognize that that need for protection is coming from a belief system within you, and so you no longer need that. For example, this one, when she first started doing this work, would call upon protection, and when she was doing some of her freedom release work where she's going into the essence of the person she's working with, she recognized that that person may have the belief that they could be impacted by shadow entities or denser energies. And so she would run across those energies within that person. And so she would ask for more clearing and more protection for herself and for her client. And then it got to the point where one day she saw this negative being in front of her and she just said, "What are you doing there? Get out of my way. I have some work to do." And that was it. That energy was no longer there because it didn't have any place to land within her belief system and within her awareness. So the need for this really depends on the individual. As you rise up in your frequency and anchor more of the love frequency within you and do more of your own internal shadow work so that the shadow energy is no longer within you and you're releasing that and releasing it to love and light and clearing it, then you are residing in higher frequencies that are no longer as inclined to feel that you need that level of protection. You are still aware that there are beings of many diverse frequencies within the universe, within this galaxy, even upon the earth, you could say, but you know that you are at a level of vibration where you no longer feel that you are vulnerable to that energy. So it is a matter of one's own personal evolution and one's own personal belief system that requires that need for protection. Okay, thank you for that, Jen. And her next question is, what is the best way, a formula for staying in the moment? I love how these questions are all bringing up a little bit of clearing in the beginning. So just know that as you're listening to this, wherever you feel that you're not able to stay in the moment, something about that's being released, something about the need for protection is being released. So it's just happening naturally in this process. So back to the question about a formula for staying in the moment. We would say, beloveds, that this one just did a video that offered a very good formula for staying in the moment. So I'm just going to make a note to add that video at the end of this. It was my last video, so many of you may have seen it, but for the future, I'll link it to this video so you'll be able to watch it at the end. And this formula was to look at judgment. And where you are holding judgment in the moment, judgment keeps you from being in the moment, because judgment is a belief or a thought form that comes from the past. So in essence, when you have a judgment about something, you're bringing the past into this now moment. And so the best way to stay in the moment is to try to keep yourself from judging the experience that you're having in this now moment. So by being in your life for, let's use the example of this whole day, just accepting everything that is from a very neutral state. So whatever is happening or whatever you're doing is just try to be neutral. And that neutrality is almost a sense of pulling out of your life a bit, not having any emotional connection to it, you're just there and this is what's happening. You're just at work and now you're reading an email and now you're answering a phone call and now you're talking to a coworker, but there's no attachment or connection to what these things mean. And when you can let go of that judgment and the meaning that naturally wants to happen with these events, then you're more fully present with what the event can mean in this now moment. So it is really that sense of pulling out the meaning, the judgment, the attachment to what is happening in the now moment, so that you're just present with it from a very neutral state. Is a very powerful way of being in the moment. And we invite you then to pick a day that you're going to choose, or even 2 hours. Set your timer for 2 hours where you're going to do everything you can to be very neutral in that amount of time. It will help you then to begin this process of more and more being able to stay present in the moment. Great question. Okay. What do I need to do to be able to channel universal energies such as Abraham Hicks or Jane or Seth or Cryon? So basically, what do I need to do to be able to channel higher frequency universal energies? And so it is, dear ones, we would say to you that for many of you, it is so simple that you do not recognize that you are doing it. Everyone has their own unique way of channeling. For example, many artists are channeling. They're allowing the energy to flow through them, and that is channeling. So do not expect your channeling to be exactly like someone else's. Or perhaps you are clairaudient and you're wanting to see an image in front of you when that's not the natural way for you to channel or for your intuitive abilities to come to the foreground. So your language can often help you identify. Do you use the word feeling, or do you say, I hear you? Or do you say, I feel what you're going through? Or do you say, I see, I see? Even these things can help you understand what your natural inclination is in your intuitive abilities. And so we would recommend to begin with understanding what your own innate intuitive abilities are and how they come to you, so that you're not trying to learn or develop something that's not natural for you. It's much easier for you to find the way that just comes naturally to you, and then to just allow it to flow. And it's a matter of practicing, and very often writing, regardless of what your own intuitive nature is, writing can be a very good way to practice, and especially writing with your non-dominant hand. But in the practice, you can ask people to send you questions, and you're just going to say, okay, I'm just going to intuit what this answer, what naturally comes to me, and to also allow what comes first, because the mind is going to kick in. Usually the first thing that comes to you is intuitive, and then the mind will kick in and say, oh, that's not right. Oh, that can't be right. That's not what I've heard before. So I guess I'm just confused and I'm not getting the right answer. Do what you can not to let the mind interfere in that way. Just allow it to flow. It doesn't matter if it's right or wrong. You can just garner questions without intending to send them to anyone or give them back, but just so that you can feel into the answers. You may choose to send the answers to the people who send you questions so that you can get their feedback on whether it resonates with them and feels like truth for them. So the more you do this, the more you practice, and the more you get feedback, so feel in for yourself to see if it feels true, get feedback from others, the more you're going to understand that you really are connected. But we want people to understand that it is natural within everyone. It's been shut down because it hasn't been accepted in your society for so long. And so people will often suppress it for that reason. But we want you to know that the biggest hurdle to overcome for most people is that it's easier than you think it is. So to stop doubting yourself, and if you have this desire, it's because the ability is there. And so to expand it and practice every day and just come to know your own nature and how this comes intuitively to you. I find it very interesting that my phone keeps chiming in here. I forgot to turn it off, but it's affirming things. So it's fun to pay attention to where it chimes in and says, yeah, let's take note of that. So nothing is a mistake. Everything is synchronicity in the universe showing us. So the next question is, can I train myself to see energy? Again, dear one, we would say that some people have a natural inclination for this. And so if this is something that you're interested in time, you may be able to train yourself to do that. And there are people who have courses to teach people on how to see auras. So when you have an interest in it, then there is the likelihood that you will be able to do that because the interest is coming from somewhere. It's coming from most likely times in the past when you've done this and you've had this ability and you've used it before. So again, to ask yourself why it is you want to develop this, that can help you perhaps understand by wanting to know why you want to develop it, it can help you understand more of yourself and your own intuitive abilities. And then again, we would say with practice, your skills will develop. And even through this, we would like you to understand that if you're a claircognizant, you see better by saying, oh, what does their aura look like? And then you may just know what it is, as opposed to actually seeing it, where a clairvoyant would see it. So in the beginning, again, if you want to be able to see people's auras and you feel that you're more of a claircognizant, you could just say, oh, what colors are in their aura? And you'll hear blue and black. It'll just come to you. So by tuning in again to your own intuitive abilities, it will develop more. And in the experience of this channel, she is not clairvoyant, she's claircognizant. But in time, as she's talking, she is starting to get what feels like a vision because she started with her own intuitive abilities and now it's expanding into a vision in the inner eye. So it's growing and expanding by using it more and more. So we hope this answer was not too roundabout, that if you have this desire and you spend 3 or 4 months focused on it and nothing is happening, perhaps take a different route through what is a more natural skill for you, a more natural ability. And in time, then it may develop into more of actually being able to see what it is you would like to see. Okay, thanks for that, Jen. When I die, will I see my loved ones right away, humans and pets? Indeed, beloved, we would say that loved ones await those who are crossing over. It is a very special task, a very special mission to be present with those who are crossing over so that they will find their way back home, so to speak, so that they will feel comforted in their passing. They will know that it is the right time for them. They will feel welcomed back to the love that exists on the other side. So most importantly, it is offered as a comfort to those who are passing over so they won't be too confused, just like a new baby being born and being held and in the most beneficial circumstances being placed on the chest of the mother or the father so that this baby may instantly feel at home and feel welcomed into the world. It is very similar when you are passing over to the other side. Pets may come If there is still a strong link between the one passing over and the pet, then definitely pets may be there as well, and be a part of welcoming that one back home, and that one feeling love and feeling drawn to passing over because it wants to connect with its pet, and this one that meant so much to it when it was alive on the earth. So it is less common that pets are there, but certainly it does happen. Okay. What happens to a soul who commits suicide? Beloveds, we would say to you that this is a very tender question, and it is not what some have heard, that those who choose to take their own lives and die by suicide are going to be punished on the other side, or that they'll have to come back and live that over so that they can receive what they needed to receive in that lifetime. That is no longer true. You are at a different point in the evolution of humanity, and the earth has become a very dark school, or had become, and yet in this time of transition, you've had beings who hold a higher frequency, who hold more of a love frequency, who have chose to come to the earth to help you in this time of evolution. And so some of these souls cannot stay for a long time. It is just too difficult a place for them to be. Some souls come in and know that they can be of service in a better way from passing over and making their way to the other side. So there is no punishment. There is no having to come back and do it over again. For some, it was indeed meant to be a temporary time here, or that it was much more difficult than they felt it would be. On the other side, when you're an evolved soul, you feel that you have what you need to be able to make it through. And yet when you come, life can be much more challenging than one would even have realized would be possible. And so often for these souls, instead of the soul being harmed in this incarnation and almost being set back because of the density and the difficulty, it is actually more beneficial for the soul to then make that transition. So they go to the other side, they have a life review the same as everyone else, they are met by loved ones who offer them so much comfort to help them recover, we could say, from the experience of their incarnation and the difficulties that they endured in that spirit experience. They are greeted by pure love and grace and the support that they need to heal the wounds of the incarnation that they have just left, and find their way back to love and to knowing self-love and moving into that space of being surrounded by love in a safe environment that allows them then to review the life in a way that is beneficial, and where they receive the understanding and the knowing that they chose from their incarnation. Okay. Can dark entities physically hurt someone? Again, dear one, we would say to you that this is a matter of the belief system within the person who is having the experience. If the person believes it is possible, then people can be hurt by dark entities because they believe it is possible. And some people have had this experience and they share this experience. However, if well, we would say it requires that person being engaged in believing that that is possible for that event to happen. Because, as you know, or you may have an understanding that everything in your experience comes from your own creation, comes from your own level of belief, your level of being, the frequency that you reside in. It's all created from within yourself. And so people need not fear this if they are listening to this and they've never had this experience and they hear, yes, it's possible, and suddenly they're afraid that it's going to happen to them. No, if you've not had this experience, that it's not likely that it's going to be something that is going to be your experience. So it is also often for people who have that experience an opportunity for growth, an opportunity for them to understand that as they evolve, they can reach a state where this is no longer possible because they've shifted their level of awareness to move through that experience. And there are many who may dispute this answer, and many who may have a lot to say on this. However, we are offering from our perspective as the Council of Nine that what we have expressed as this answer, many may come to know this in time as they change their own frequency, their own awareness, their own understanding, and know that in dimensions beyond the dimension that you are currently in, it's not an event that is likely to happen because the entities that would cause this harm cannot live in that higher frequency of love and grace. So the more you move into that higher frequency within yourself, the more then that these experiences simply won't happen. So for people who are having these experiences, we would invite them to become more loving of themselves. All love must begin within the self. All love must come from the self. If you're depending on love to come from outside of you, then you may be subjected to false love. It is by healing the wounds within, being honest with yourself about your pain and trauma, and really going in and looking at it, and really having the courage and the strength, because it definitely takes both, to go in, dive deep into your wounds that are keeping you from clearing that density that is the 3D expression that you've lived in for so long. If you are having these experiences, we highly recommend this internal work of clearing the wounds of the past, the pain and suffering of the past, and that will allow you to anchor in more love and more light into your experience. And then there are also those who are affected by what we would call the darkness, the shadow side, who are making a choice to be there. And so it is really a matter of whether the individual also wants to lift themselves out of that experience. There may be some reason why they are choosing to be in that. Perhaps they've had many lifetimes and part of their evolution has been this battle between the dark and the light, and they're still holding on to that battle or feeling that they have some role to play in that, and therefore they are choosing to stay in this frequency where that play continues to act itself out. So there are many reasons and factors that play into this, but for those who are having this experience and would like to change it, we really encourage that one must come back to the place of self-love so that you know that frequency of love, and that will lift you out of that experience of having those attacks, you could say. Okay, So I have one more question I'll answer here. I'm so fascinated with light and dark and training myself to experience them as one. It all comes from one source, no? Indeed, beloved, everything comes from what you could call the light, from source, from the creator, from the all that is. That's where everything that is expressed originated. So the ultimate answer is yes, it all comes from that source. And so we would invite anyone who has this fascination with the light and dark to look at what that fascination is about. What is in your own lineage as a soul, your development as a soul, that has the interest in that? And what is the ultimate destination for you? What would you like your soul to evolve into? We would say that the process of evolution is to move from the light and then find one's way back to the light. So it's almost like breathing, except it's a very slow breath because it's a long process of moving away from the light and experiencing darkness and doing the dance that you do with the darkness, and then coming back to being fully embraced by the light again. So we would invite one to explore that. But yes, ultimately it is all from one source. So that's why as you evolve into higher frequencies, you don't have the good, bad, the right, wrong, the yes, no. It becomes less of a duality that needs these two sides, moving more back into oneness where the light holds the darkness. Like a prism that holds all these colors that are held within one. So ultimately the light holds the darkness and it comes back together again as one. Okay, my thanks to the Council of Nine, and I hope these questions were supportive for you and of interest to you. And again, please do feel free to submit your questions. I will continue to offer these Q&As as long as I'm receiving questions from people and the feedback that it's supportive and that you enjoy it. So if you did enjoy this Q&A, please let me know. And if it's not something that you're interested in as much as just receiving channelings from the beings that I bring through, also please let me know that as well. I really do want this channel to be supportive of what's reaching the most people and offering the greatest support at this time. So thank you so much for being present. Thank you for liking. That really supports the growth of my channel, and subscribing. I would love to get up to 5,000 subscribers. That's my next goal. So if it resonates with you, please subscribe. And I love receiving your comments and just getting feedback on how these videos are sitting with you. So much love to you all. Have a blessed day. Bye-bye.